count in. I guess we're okay. That was you.
It was good though, huh?
It was pretty loud, yeah. It was louder than it normally is. All right, we're redundant on all platforms.
Should we start with light news?
Yeah, because the more I think about this topic, the less I actually want to talk about it. So
well, we can always dip it. But so what I don't understand is I know everyone's kind of in their own world, their own head, and their own perspectives on life.
Yeah.
I've been doing something called Hot Take Tuesday on my Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
And some are slightly more serious. Some are sarcastic on purpose. Some I'll say things because I know it'll get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
Right? That's supposed to be the fun in a hot take. I'm not going to... And then everyone says, like, this is a hot take, or I disagree. Like, yeah, you dumb bitch. That's the point of posting it. If I said, like, Americans like sugar, like, that's not a hot take, right? Or water is wet,
okay,
right?
just roll this out, and then I have a comment. Go.
Yeah. So, this week's... First off, ladies and gentlemen, 50% off. Up to... all our apparel's free. Not free. 50% off. I wish it was free.
Up to 50%.
Up to 50% off, folks. 3sb.co. Our only sale of the year. It is our birthday. So Third Street Barbell, good company.
Our Got the Keys anniversary.
Yeah. Start this mess birthday. And this will be our only sale of the year. Every single year, we're going to run it end of June, beginning of July. So check it out. We have quite a few items left. Some sizes are a little smattering, but 3sb.co. Check it out. So I say that ice cream should not be fruit flavored or contain nuts. Now, do I really care? Am I going to war over this? Whatever, right? I don't like fruit ice cream. I'll eat a sorbet or something. And I don't love nuts, but I'm going to eat a Rocky Road if it's in front of me, right? It's not the end of the world. People go so crazy. And the comments I read that people come at me, some take it so serious. Like, you must just not be educated on ice cream. You've never had good ice cream. I bet I could convince you otherwise. Like, all right, dude. Like, if I don't like red wine, you're all of a sudden going to give me $1 million bottle of red wine and I'm going to love red wine? That's not how it's going to go.
I don't like red wine. For anyone who has $1 million bottle of red wine that they want to give me to convince me, I fucking hate it. Just bring it on and we'll see if my mind changes.
Yeah, like that's not going to happen. And so two comments stood out, and some of them are just so, and maybe because we've been on the internet too long, but I feel like if other people's perception of the internet, like the comment just screams, I'm a fucktard on the internet. Like the internet comment, right? The guy goes, well, vanilla and chocolate come from fruits. I'm just like, all right, bro. Like, you obviously know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm talking about some banana strawberry fucking mess. I don't care about your definition of the vanilla bean plant. You know what I mean? Or that cacao or whatever the fuck is a fruit. I don't give a flying fuck that you Webster Googled the definition of vanilla and it is a fruit.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I get that the hot takes are intentionally silly. Yeah. It's like whatever changed my mind. That construction, we see it all the time. All that stuff. It's a firmly held belief, but it's not a firmly held belief. It's not It's not a hill to die on. It's just one of those things. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is people saying things just to piss off people who have a different political view than them.
Sure.
I'm so completely over that I would ban all those people from every form of media because I'm tired of it.
Well, because there's more truth. There's more truth in when they're doing that.
Well, it reinforces how tribal everything is right now. And I am so completely done with that.
Yeah.
This is where we stand right now with discourse is not where I want to live.
No, it's the worst. People have no life. People have no life. And so they don't have any identity in themselves. They have identity over the last 3 years. I mean, it's been going on longer and other people used to be like this, but they only have identity in their political beliefs. So when you disagree or discuss, they feel like you're attacking their identity. I can at least understand that, right? Because you start talking about, welfare, abortions, taxes, things that do heavily affect a lot of humans. I can at least semi-understand how you attach your identity to that because it's what you listen to, it's what you read, it's what you truly believe. Mm-hmm. But even your beliefs, I think, shouldn't be your identity. You should have your own moral code. Even if you're highly religious. I was raised Catholic. You shouldn't believe or tie so tightly the morals of this religion to yours. Now, you can take from them and learn from them, but you should build your own code as well as building your own identity, right? The same thing we joke about with lifters. Are you just a fucking power lifter? That's like when we joke about meatheads. Like, all you know is deadlifts. That's all you care about. If I say deadlifts suck, you're so offended because all you identify with is a deadlift. My instance shows that these people's identity is even more fragile, that they're so tied to the flavoring of their ice cream, they were actually insulted by my comment.
When they could just as easily have said, I really like a strawberry sorbet.
Right.
Or like toasted almond ice cream is my absolute favorite. And that's all they had to say.
Right. And some people did. Some people said, hey, Mike, I think it was a guy from Davis. Hey, go to Davis and go try this flavor. I bet it'll change your mind. Okay, I like that. Fire back jokingly.
Yeah.
Know the context.
Match the level of discourse.
I'm not talking about weird. I mean, we're about to talk about some weird shit that you guys can fire at me with your little fragile egos and identities. But, I'm just joking.
So I see this as just a symptom of where we are, that people can't figure out how to give and go in an online anything. Yeah, I mean, some people can, but yeah, that concerns me. And another part of it is people not being able to point to the moment that they made the decision, the logical decision that they were going to believe a particular thing.
Because they don't. They just follow.
Yeah. And then another one is that they become upset for other people who are not in their position. Now, I can understand having empathy for folks. I can understand having advocacy for people who you feel, need your advocacy, whatever. But if you're not checking in with those people about whether or not something is actually a problem,
it's just theater.
You're a problem.
Yeah, you're just theater.
Yeah.
I think that all ties to what I'm talking about. It's like their identity's so in that no one's actually open-minded. You can't be open-minded when it's truly tied to your identity, because you're feeling internally attacked by any discussion or opposing view. And so how are you ever going to accept, discuss, move on, grow, learn, say, hey, I was wrong, or hey, I didn't know that point. That makes me think. Or I just don't really know. I don't really know. And I say that a lot, and people think, well, read up. Bitch, I read a lot, and I listen to a lot of different people's views, and sometimes I just don't have a strong opinion on a thing because I'm maybe not so, like you said, it's not me. It's not so connected to my life, or I just can't I can understand. I have a basic understanding, but I can't wrap my head around the entire thing. And I don't know why people necessarily get that. I guess another thing I think is that people don't have, like, goals and struggles. And I'm not the guy that says, like, get out your comfort zone, wake up at 4:30 and run a marathon every day, you pussies. You need struggle to find meaning. But I do think that if you don't have any obstacles, goals, tasks, things that you're doing in your own life, then you're going to attach yourself to other issues, right? And that's what you're talking about. Like, you're an advocate, but you're not advocating for what maybe they need, want, or doing it the right way. You're so attached to something that you make it you. Why can't I just be Mike?
And some of that comes down to personal beliefs about fairness.
Yeah.
And trying to apply your personal beliefs about fairness to the world at large, which is challenging.
There's too much chaos.
Yeah, there's too much chaos. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of, this topic kind of wraps around that. This isn't more of an opinion editorial episode than it is a one where we deal with specific facts, because I think that the facts are a mess.
Let's start with what I think is an easy one.
Okay.
U.S. sprinter not allowed to compete in her exact event for a 30-day ban with what I first read was something, an illegal substance, which turned out to be, I think, marijuana.
That was the understanding.
Because I read it real early, and it was kind of up in arms. Because she had just, I think, broken an American record recently in a trial. And so she got a little bit of publicity from that, or maybe even a world record. Again, 50% facts, folks. And then turns out marijuana, whatever, 30-day ban, which is like the minimum ban anyways. And then I guess my first reaction, is everyone's reaction on social media. Marijuana is still federally illegal in America, right? And we're supposed to be one of the most progressive or whatever countries, right? And it's still federally illegal here.
Yeah.
Beside the point, that has nothing to do with nothing, is that this is WADA. This is the IOC. This is the Olympic Committee's rules.
Yeah.
Which is a world federation. This has nothing to do with America's, California's. Just because you're from California and you smoke pot on the daily has nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah.
So everyone's reaction to that is so stupid. Pot. You can get drunk every day and still run in the Olympics, but you can't smoke a little pot. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I'm just saying that's just not how it is right now, right? And that goes back to not all rules are right, and not all rules mean morals. Correct morals, right?
Yeah.
Rules are rules. And so from an athletic standpoint, who's someone who's competed in sports their whole life, and she even admits, the runner even tweeted like, hey, just don't judge me. I'm just a human. I accept this, right? Like she knew what she did. She was going through a hard time. I think her mother passed away and she was smoking some pot probably to chill out. Okay. So then why can't we just kind of end it there? The push of all these people thinking it's so outrageous that marijuana, I mean, I'm sure there's countries, and I don't know, but I'm sure there's countries in this world, if you're found with pot on you, they're chopping off your fucking arm.
Yeah, they're a broad range of reactions.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're talking worldwide. Everyone goes to the fucking Olympics.
Yeah, this is not an Oregon thing. This is not a United States thing.
Yeah.
It's Sha'Carri Richardson that we're talking about, obviously. And it was she found out from a reporter that her mother died, her biological mother. So there's clearly more to the story there that I don't know, but anytime you use that biological designation, it's not the person who raised you.
Yeah, it feels a little distant.
So, I mean, on the one hand, we're supposed to feel like maybe that wasn't that big a deal, and on the other hand, for an adopted person, there's so many unresolved feelings about biological parents.
Sure. Yeah, and again,
and I kind of get it, but if you know, like there were ways to avoid, for her to avoid what happened there,
and I think she admitted it.
Like, yeah, like if she were to say to her physician or the USIOC or somebody like, hey, I am actually I'm in a bad place because of this, and I need an intervention.
Yeah.
That is going to help me, a pharmacological intervention that is not going to throw me under the WADA bus for what's going on with me right now. It's like, this seems like a really simple thing to do, but I know I can't do that because it's against the rules. Now, on the other hand, the only way that these rules get changed is when people challenge them.
Sure.
Often
and I'm
challenge them in court or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm sure they are. But again, like, it's not Oregon and Denver. We're talking about the world. As many Oregonians are saying, hey, smoke pot for all my Olympians, are just as many politicians from other countries, more conservative countries in the Middle East, or arguing against it. Like, I think there is pushback, and again, my personal beliefs are much different. But when you enter a sport and you choose this sport and you choose this federation and you choose all these things, you play by their rules.
On the flip side of that, what year was it that that NBA players became eligible to compete on the Olympic basketball team?
So I think that was a USA internal rule, correct? I don't think that was an international thing. I think US decides that we want to send amateurs. I think that's the gig. I don't think the U.S.
I don't know. I don't know the answer
I think
to
that's
that.
sport by sport. I may be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure that's sport by sport. Like, historically, boxing in the Olympics is amateur, and historically, basketball in the Olympics, America chose to send our amateur team. Obviously, 1992, the Dream Team is when we sent our first full squad of pros.
And now we're really embroiled in a whole thing about what an amateur athlete is with the latest NC2A stuff.
Love it. I kind of like it.
I think yes, and I think no. I mean, like, if you're, because there are other laws that come into play there.
Yeah. there's a lot of stuff, and there's negative. There's negative
cut
for sure.
against somebody who comes to the United States to play for another.
For sure.
To play for a university.
For sure. And it can mess up that kid's life. What if they make $10 million doing a Pepsi commercial and they spend it incorrectly, or they get a little too wild because they're 17 years old in college?
Yeah.
No, there's 100% negatives. But I think in my moral compass of what's right and wrong, I think it's a very weird rule for them to have to pay $100,000 a year to play a sport to make a company billions of dollars a year.
I agree with that 100%. But with my question, though, is are they testing NBA players who are on the U.S. Olympic team?
Oh, yeah, strictly.
For weed?
Yeah, strictly.
Strictly.
Yeah.
Are they just giving them a pass?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because basketball is already corrupted because they are allowing professionals to play.
Yeah, I think it goes back to even Icarus and what we were talking about, right? I don't know the exact protocols of testing each sport. If each sport has a different, right? You'd imagine whoever's going there for fucking curling or cornhole or whatever the fuck sports are in the Olympics now, maybe aren't getting tested every day, where track and field, swimming, all these other sports that are maybe more physical demanding or more in the pop eye are getting tested more often. And then I also don't know if the line is ever drawn where, for example, the U.S., we have USADA, which is a branch, which is our United States anti-doping agency. Are they the only ones ever testing Americans? Because as we saw in Icarus, that's highly flawed.
Yeah.
Because the head of USADA is going to be American, and the system is going to be American, and the head of RUSADA is going to be Russian, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying that we go as deep as everyone's going to be like, Mike's anti-patriotism. No, fuck you. I'm fucking American. I love it. But I'm not saying we go as deep as Icarus did, where we're giving them drugs, and we have this whole drug protocol, and we're flipping samples left and right. But for an individual country who regulates their own drug testing and their own athletes, could each country, U.S. included, maybe blur some lines? It's probably possible, right?
So here's the answer to my question from theathletic.com. While the NBA has not tested players for marijuana since March of 2020,
not that long ago,
oddly when the pandemic started, so we have not
let
had
it blaze.
We have not had a
March 2020. That's 420.
It's 320, but okay.
Oh, is March 3?
March is 3.
Fuck, it's April.
April's 4.
God damn it! I almost had it. That was almost some Illuminati.
That was almost really good, except that it was really.
That was
not,
almost some Illuminati shit.
Yeah. NBA players in consideration to represent Team USA in the Summer Olympics in Tokyo will be subject to WADA testing, according to a memo sent to all 30 teams on Tuesday, whatever day this was. This was May 18th.
The other crazy part about that, though, is I don't know if there's there's so many rules, right? I don't know if there's Olympic rules for each sport, but I'm pretty sure we just solidified our national basketball team like 2 weeks ago. So you can't test everybody until you have the team.
That's a good question. Each national team player for Team USA will be subject to testing that includes cannabinoids, narcotics, and performance-enhancing drugs, according to the memo.
Because of the NBA playoffs and all this other stuff, they couldn't choose a team until literally, I think, 2 weeks ago. And then they solidified who's on the team. So then now there's 8 weeks before the Olympics. Maybe they got tested for 8 weeks by USADA.
Well,
what are you going to test? USADA is going to test every single NBA player? They can't.
No.
I mean, and maybe the NBA has to say, all right, here's 50 players that might go to the Olympics, a year in advance, because they do have like alternatives and stuff. I don't know. There's just so many rules that I'm sure we could dig real deep. Again, we're not reporters that probably are public on the frequency of testing of these people, but it doesn't seem. Yeah.
So this started in the bubble because no families were allowed in the bubble. Friends were not allowed. No one was permitted in anyone else's room. Players weren't allowed to leave campus for any reason. And so to ease the mental stress of all of it, the league chose to look the other way if players wanted to use marijuana that fell from the sky.
Yeah, weed delivery. Weed delivery was legal.
Yeah, like Hunger Games.
Domino's.
Or the little things come down, they're tweeting at you, and you pick them up. And
Domino's, yeah, your sponsor sends them. Domino's has a robot that delivers pizza. Why can't you have a little weed bot?
Weed bot.
Just throw you some greens.
If you're a robot developer, we want in on the ground floor of that shit.
That Domino's one, I think, is real. Sometimes commercials, you can't tell what the fuck is real, but I'm pretty sure it's real.
I thought that was the reason that they brought back the Noid.
What's that?
The Noid?
Yeah.
Domino's? The Noid?
I don't know what the Noid is.
Oh, my Lord. That cartoon character that is always trying to fuck up your pizza?
No.
No?
It's a Domino's commercial.
Yeah. From the, help me, Sam, 80s, 70s?
I was born in the late 80s.
Yeah, I know, but...
1990, I know this. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I never heard of the Noid.
Never heard of the Noid? I can't turn this around because I'll disconnect everything, but the Noid here.
I'll get it.
Yeah, just look it up.
N-O-I-D?
Domino's Noid. N-O-I-D, I think. Like annoyed, but... 86. Avoid the Noid.
Oh, I've seen him. Oh, yeah, he's in the new commercial.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, I've seen his face.
I think that's why they do the drone delivery thing, the robot delivery.
But it's real.
I don't know.
I think that's real. I think it's a real drone delivery.
Let's find that out.
Yeah.
And see if we can do weed that way. But it wouldn't. It would have to say that it was pizza or something, because then people would just attack it and steal the weed, right?
It's real in Houston. Yeah, it's starting to happen.
Alrighty.
They're just waiting for transportation department to allow it.
That's craziness.
Yeah. So I don't know about weed testing. I don't know about any of the testing. I don't really understand.
I think it could be a problem. But the thing is that, like, these things are not always immediately disclosed. And I think that, I could be completely wrong about this, but I think that the United States had to make a decision about it, about whether or not they were going to accept the testing.
Oh.
In that case. And they had the ability to put her on the relay team.
I think she is.
No.
Oh, she
said
didn't.
No. They could have, but they didn't.
Because of her,
because of the test.
Yeah. Oh, I thought, but the ban is up before the relay technically.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, is that the relay is after 30 days. Yeah, because depending on sport too, right? Like, doesn't the Olympics always kind of go in order? Like, it's always like track and field, then swimming, then gymnastics or something.
There is an order, but it's spread out over,
2-3 weeks. But there's generally an order that they follow every year.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, if she's in the later part, she could have maybe done all of her athletics.
Maybe. 30 days, whatever.
Right.
But it sounds like, okay, so this is something you were saying earlier, and we were beginning to just try to elide this very carefully and not dive super deep into it. But it's not that we don't feel, we talked about this earlier, we do not feel as though this particular instance of them saying you tested positive for weed, you can't compete, is a racially based thing.
I saw that a lot. I saw that argument a lot on Instagram, and I saw the argument a lot on Instagram, like, again, like, it's just Oregonians. I don't know why we say Oregon. I guess because they're the first ones that allowed pot or whatever, but it's just a stereotype, folks. Chill out. Because no drugs are illegal. Yeah. Or decriminalized. Yeah. So they're like, these people are batting their chest. It's just pot. It's just a plant medicine, and racist. I don't know if they are aware that WADA is World Organization. Again, if pot is found in your pocket in certain countries, they might chop off your fucking dick, for all I know.
However, was it a racist move, or was it a purity move on the part of the United States to not let her compete in the relay?
I think it's a weird timing thing, as she was just getting a bunch of publicity a few weeks prior. Because people liked her look. She obviously broke a record.
If I'm broadcasting it, I want her to do it because it's a great roll-in package.
Right,
you know
and she was about to win the gold. Like, she was kind of set up for success, so she was already getting. I don't know. Who knows, right? Because we can build a million conspiracies, or maybe because U.S. is cheating in a bunch of. This is my conspiracy. Maybe because the U.S. is cheating in a bunch of other sports, they decided to pop her just for that reason. She was becoming the face of track and field of 21 Olympics, so we pop her to prove, hey, we test our people. You know what I mean? That's like the NBA just saying, hey, we got to pull LeBron James, and then they give drugs to all their other guys. That's obviously a conspiracy, 1 billion %.
Sacrificial lamb kind of situation.
Yeah, kind of, right? And I obviously don't truly believe that in my heart, but I'm just saying that we don't know. After watching Icarus, who knows what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I don't have any trust for it at all.
Yeah, we're not that as corrupt as Russia, I don't think, but you just don't know.
So it comes back to that fairness thing. It's like she, except for this bizarre rule that probably should be eliminated because there are places in the world that things like that are legal, but there are also places in the world that steroids are legal, and
100, yeah,
and other performance enhancing 100%. Stuff. They're legal for the population. They may not be legal for competitors,
sure,
but they're legal for the population,
100%,
or at least decriminalized or uncriminalized or something.
And to tie to what you said, when people are like advocating for someone that almost doesn't want to be advocated for, that's what I felt, and that's my impression of reading her tweets, Richardson's, is she kind of said like, yeah, I'm at fault. She like kind of admitted like, my bad. Like, don't judge me. I'm just a human like you, but I'm faster. That's literally what she said.
Yeah.
And so like, to me, now you're advocating for, she already said, like, I made a mistake. I knew what was coming. I knew the rules. I didn't get blindsided. I don't think they cheated the system. Now you're advocating for someone that's admitting they're wrong, I guess.
But, yeah, and that should probably be the end of it, right?
I would think so, but obviously that's not how it works on the internet.
That is not how it works on the internet. And then you see the memes and articles and opinions about she doesn't get to compete because she smoked a little bit of weed because she had a sadness.
Right.
But we have transgender athletes that are allowed to compete who have been taking hormones that they couldn't take otherwise.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And so I did a YouTube video on this kind of when it was real hot, and I feel like 4 or 5 years ago. And even to this day, there's arguments that I don't think get brought up correctly. Now, I think I can speak for Jim, too, where we think we're fairly progressive in our thinking, and we're accepting socially and spiritually of all kinds of folks. If it doesn't harm somebody, I don't really care.
Yeah. Rock on.
All the rules are set up about hormones in particular, a timeline of hormones, I believe legal status of your sex, and the timeline of those hormones, and then how much testosterone per milliliter of blood or whatever the heck, right? And I think I saw 5 and 10, whatever.
As limits.
Right, as the upper limit. What I am not only more interested in, but I think is a point that I've heard like meatheads talk about it. People talk about it, is there's so many other factors in what you're biologically given. There's something called the Q angle. Women tear more ACLs than men because of how their hips are often wider and their knees are more inside of their hips, where men's knees tend to be straight under their hips. And obviously there's genetic variances, and there's less athletic people and more athletic people, et cetera, et cetera. Tendon, ligament, strength, and elasticity are also very different.
Femur length.
General leverages. Muscle fiber types. Yeah. Not only muscle fiber types, but the amount of muscle fibers. And although, yes, those can be switched and changed through training, which we've more recently found out in evidence, but the location of those muscle fiber types, where, how, etc. And I brought up examples of sports. How many guys in the NBA can do a 360 dunk versus the WNBA versus maybe how many the time in ultra marathons or marathons between male and female. The slower, less explosive sports, it seems to be, by my quick data that I did 5 years ago, that they're closer together in times compared to NFL, NBA, or whatever other sport you want to compare it to. That's a little bit more type 2 fiber, a little bit more explosive. Because then this transgender woman who's weightlifting for New Zealand, because then the rule that they set for that, basically, I don't know if they straight up said this transgender rule, but the rule they set up for that with the timeline and the testosterone per milliliter that you have to hold for 6 months has now bled into 2 or 3, I believe, Namibian runners, sprinters.
Yeah, we're going to go Namibian on that.
There we go. It is what it is.
It is.
Are now not allowed to compete because they are naturally born women, biological women, whose natural testosterone levels go beyond this new rules limit.
Yeah.
I don't know when this, I'll call it the trans rule. I don't know if that's PC or real or not, but basically that rule is new-ish. because you couldn't do this in 2012 London Olympics.
Yeah, this article is from July 2nd of this year.
So that's now not allowing previous runners and leaders in their sport, based on their natural hormone levels, to compete.
Yeah.
And again, what is a rule? Sure, we got to follow, but doesn't necessarily mean it is right, and it doesn't necessarily mean it fits with my morals, because I think, obviously, the natural-born women, the biological women, I don't know all the PC terms people throw around, vagina-having people or something, they say shit like that, should be able to compete.
Vagina owners.
Yeah, they should be able to compete.
We had the Shameless Sex girls on, and I think they said penis owners and vagina owners.
Yeah. Ovary, not ovary. I don't know. I don't know what
Madam
people
Ovary.
say.
Anyway.
I believe that they should be able to compete, but because of this brand new rule, they're not allowed to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. This computer just freaked out. But luckily we're running a redundancy, and so we're okay. The Namibian.
See, that's hard.
I fucked it up too. Runners Christine.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, Mboma and Patrice Masingli were disqualified from the 400-meter event at the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo for having testosterone levels that surpassed IOC regulations. Reuters reported the Olympic hopefuls didn't score within the range of testosterone allowed to compete in women's events from 400 meters to 1,600 meters. World Athletics, the governing body of athletic competitions across the globe, dictates female athletes maintain a testosterone level below 5 NMOL.
And I heard that was
L.
I heard that was 10 in another article I read, so who knows what the hell's going on. But either way, that blows my mind as well. And again, like, what's right, what's wrong, what's going on, I don't know, but those might have been things they didn't take into account when they made that rule.
But potentially. And I think that it gets down to the fairness thing. Like, how can you be fair to everyone? And I think you can't. And
there's a difference between being fair to everyone and being accepting of everyone. I think you can be accepting to everyone and not be fair to everyone. But look, honey, Mama told me when I was in 3rd grade, life ain't fair.
Yeah. Well, like, we never think about it this way. We never equate physical strength or athletic performance and intelligence.
Yeah.
But not everybody is smart.
No.
And we can't we can level the playing field in terms of education.
Right.
We cannot level and this is not a racial thing. This is not a gender thing. It's not anything at all. It's just that some people are smarter than other people. Everything in the world has some kind of a bell curve to it.
What's that book? I read like half the books I was supposed to read through my whole high school. One of those famous ass American books where if you're like smart, they put like a buzzer on your brain to make you like not be able to think every once in a while. And if you're really strong, they put weights on your hands. And so
Harrison Bergeron is what you're thinking of. It's a short story.
Maybe, yeah. And so they made everybody equal. Basically, if you were tall, you had to walk on your knees, and if you're fucking smart, they're making your brain rattle, and if you were dumb, they're giving you a pill to be a little bit smarter. This is obviously in a fake utopian type world, but like is that what it is?
Yeah, it's Kurt Vonnegut, Harrison Bergeron.
Kurt Vonnegut, Harrison.
I'm like
Bergeron.
so smart and so stupid at the same time, you know? Like I have it in there somewhere. Point being, though, and Jim and I were joking, and you guys take this however you want, but like I can't be mad that I wasn't born with LeBron James' body and feel entitled that I should be in the NBA.
Yeah.
And like a lot of this kind of starts to feel like that to me.
Yeah.
Like life ain't fair. Like, and you can accept me for my little stubby, handsome Italian self, but you can't be mad. I can't say like, well, I want LeBron James to wear a 40-pound weight vest so I can fairly compete with him in the NBA together.
Yeah.
And I get to play with trampoline shoes.
Yeah. And I think that acceptance is a thing you're talking about earlier. Like you can accept that transgender athletes exist and that they want to compete, but we can't figure out how to level the playing field for particularly trans women.
Right.
Like there isn't, and the statistics seem to show that it's only the top performers that are really going to perform better. Most of them after a couple of years of hormone therapy, they fall into the kind of the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
But my guide in all this is somebody we know, looking at Janae Kroc, who competed in a BJJ tournament over the weekend as a man, because her own fundamental sense of fairness overrode the whole, like, I'm going to be a transgender icon,
And I think we talked to Janae about that on the podcast. We talked to her about whether she competes or where she competes or how, and she kind of just said, I probably won't compete. Obviously decided to compete and shows in the male category. I think acceptance is totally fine. And I mean, I actually, this is one area that maybe powerlifting does it well, right? And this is a sidestep, so it's a lateral argument. So in our great debate with all you internet heads out there, you can call my flaws. But powerlifting has, 2 or 3 main federations.
Yeah.
And one of them just decides to look left on steroids.
Yeah.
They just, close their eyes. And one is trying to be strict and a little bit more conservative and test all their athletes and be as natural as they can in that athletics. Now, I don't know where that fits into this bigger story, but in my head, the world champion powerlifter competes in the IPF, the USAPL, the drug-tested federation, because there's a clear path there and there's drug testing and all this stuff. That doesn't mean you can't be really good, participate, be very strong, and compete in the other feds, right? So I think everyone should be able to participate. I think everyone should have a great time. But as soon as you change the playing field for whether it be steroids or whatever comes up, height, LeBron James being taller than me, then, and this is obviously ridiculous, but are you going to have a different league for different intelligence levels? All right, you got an IQ of 70 to 90, you're going to go play in this baseball league. You got a IQ of 90 to 100, you're going to play in this. Like, we're just born the way we're born.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of competition. And that may ruffle some feathers out there, but I don't see an alternative in terms of finding out who is the best with as level of a playing field as we can concretely make.
And we're still in an era where most people who are transgender, who have made a decision to transition, are doing it as adults. If your great desire to compete is there, then could you delay your transition until your competitive career is over? Because a lot of competitive athletes delay all kinds of things.
Yeah. And the argument, which I actually think is dumb and would be a sign of psychosis to me, is that people think that if we allow transgenders to compete in the category of their choosing, that all of a sudden a bunch of 10-year-olds are going to go through surgery to have an upper edge.
Yeah,
have you heard that argument?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. But people are dead serious about that, and I think that's ridiculous, because if a 10-year-old, and maybe not a 10-year-old, but a 15-year-old, 20-year-old, doesn't really matter, goes that extreme just to get one win in their life, then that is an actual mental issue. And I'm not talking about the fact that they think they're trans, the fact that they would go to such extremes just to get a win.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hopefully I said that right and didn't piss people off. But I think that argument is shit, because I just don't think sane humans think that way.
I think that I hate slippery slope arguments. I hate them because they're generally not true. I think they're generally intellectually dishonest, and they're brought up as a wedge.
Right. It's an extreme view to get an emotional pull in the argument.
Yeah, to try to convince people that you're not going to convince anyway. So you create outrage, and you keep feeding the people who already think what you think, and you preach to the choir. And
it's a throw in the mic at the crowd to say your verse situation to keep them hyped up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that, I've just heard that argument a lot. And again, I think everyone is kind of stuck in this echo chamber. So the same people that make those arguments, and I listen to quite a variety of folks. I really try to, in all types of topics, from political to otherwise. But you just hear that same argument come up. I was like, that just doesn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't make logical sense.
No, I understand.
And these are all sensitive topics, and I can make up more insane examples too, but I think you guys understand.
And a lot of the reason that you see people making an argument for transition is like a mental emotional argument.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I'm the person I'm supposed to be. I don't feel comfortable in my skin or whatever.
And I am 1 billion% accepting of that.
But there's more than one way to feel uncomfortable in your own skin.
True.
And we can't really fix that for people who it's not about transitioning. You know, if it's not about being transgender, it's that they have other mental issues going on. And they can get therapy, but everybody can get therapy.
You're just talking about general self-acceptance.
Yeah, like if people cannot perform in the Olympics because of mental and emotional challenges that they're unable to conquer.
Yeah, then they just can't.
And then they just
the
can't.
Olympics,
Like,
right.
how do we
unrelated,
fix that? There
almost unrelated, right?
Yeah, there's not. That's.
I guess that's where the extreme joke I made of an IQ league.
Yeah,
right. Like we can't just fix it so everyone gets a gold medal. And I don't think that's the main argument here, but a lot of these arguments do kind of feel to me that the backbone of it is this participation award snowflake type shit.
Yeah.
Like we ain't all that we are all very different, but we ain't all that special.
Well, and the thing is, like, people get caught up, I think, in the emotion of, well, this person worked really hard for this thing, and I feel an emotional tug about the fact that they didn't get to do whatever they didn't get to do. But a lot of people don't get to do, you know, like, I wasn't born rich, so I'm not spending the summer in Greece, you know, or
every
winter
argument
in Greece or whatever. I mean,
every argument to that, there's always one in the shadows that's not. We couldn't come up with the name, so we don't want to go too deep into it, but the fact that the New Zealand lifter Hubbard gets to compete at age 43, which is almost unheard of for weightlifting in the Olympics, knocked out a young lady who's spent a lot of her life trying to get to the Olympics herself, who took her place at that, right? So for every glory story, there's a horror story.
Right.
And so you can make the argument just as much, well, we got to be fair for this, but then that makes it unfair for this, right? The whole thing is this balancing act of life ain't fair. We can accept everyone, but what do we do here? How can we get as fair as possible? Again, how can we get as close to fair in competition, business, life, emotional, with as concrete of a playing field as we can get? And the fact is, it's just not black and white.
And that comes back again to the situation the USAPL is in.
Yeah.
With the IPF and paying for WADA testing.
Right.
Like, most of the people,
it's not even WADA testing though, right? It's just it's the same protocols WADA uses, correct?
It's WADA protocols, and it's the labs too. It's WADA approved labs.
That's fair, because I just bring that up because a lot of people talk like that. We had UFC on, CrossFit. A lot of people say, "Oh, WADA testing," but WADA's not running the CrossFit testing.
No,
they're doing it internally.
It's their standards. Yeah.
So you're trying to. You say you're going by their standards, but you're admitting you're choosing who to test. It gets hairier.
Approved labs, and all that kind of stuff.
If we think WADA's corrupt, is my point, or potentially corrupt with Icarus, the more you make it independent by the company, not even a federation, not even a CrossFit. These are companies, money-making companies. It gets even hairier, or potentially even hairier.
No, I agree. There was somewhere I was going with
My
that.
bad.
Oh, I know. Actually, and it's just the point we made before. What is the point of testing everyone if only your top 10% has a chance of actually qualifying for international competition?
Yeah, I think it depends on the pool. Because if you're talking in the UFC and you have 20 fighters in each class and you only test the top 10%, well, if that number 20 guy's juice in his gills, he could become the 1%. If you're talking about 1,000 powerlifters and you only then, yeah, I agree with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In the steroid era of baseball, I'm about to start listening to a podcast about this. So I've only heard about half an hour, so I can't comment too much. But we focused on the top performers in baseball who we know used steroids or we believe used steroids. But the majority of the steroid users were mid-pack, or lower.
Yeah.
Of people whose names are not well known, and we're never, because I mean.
Which is probably more common in a skilled sport, right? Because if you're Barry Bonds and you're strong and have insane skill, and I'm Mike Farr, have not strong but have insane skill, me taking steroids may level the playing field with Barry. But if it's not a skilled sport, it's pure athleticism, right? Then the steroids have like a different factor.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that a lot of people who do not use steroids always. Somebody made this comment the other day. I don't remember who it was. It may have been Dean when he was here. That people who don't use steroids think that steroids do more than they do, and people who do use steroids think that think that they do less than they do.
Right.
And anyway, but my point being that why spend the money to test all the people if they're not going to be in contention, and the issue is international competition.
Yeah. To me, it's more dependent on sport and then the pool we're talking about, again, with the 20 versus 1,000 rule. Because if you're my body weight and you're benching 135, no amount of steroids is going to get me to the IPF championship.
No.
But if I'm already in the UFC and I'm a badass motherfucker and I'm number 20 and I take a bunch of roids, it may bring me up higher.
Yeah, you got to be at least at the top of the mid pack to actually for it to make that kind of difference.
Yeah, where you leap some people. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have answers to any of this.
I don't have answers to any of it.
But
either.
You guys got my deeper thoughts there, fam.
Yeah, and like we had a transgender advocate on over a year ago to talk about close to 2 years ago.
Yeah, the USAPL lawsuit I think is still going on.
I think it's still going on too, and I don't know the answer to that either, except that I think that the real answer that nobody wants to face is the fact that we can't make everything fair.
And I don't even know what the lawsuit's about, if it's about competition or about participation.
I don't know either.
Right, because that's kind of where my head is too. And then I just don't think, I maybe mentioned this on another podcast, but I mentioned Jim out there, it's going to be impossible to quantify, but to make it like quote-unquote super fair is we would have to find the genetic potential gap going back to these runners who have a high test. And we have general consensus on natural high test, natural low test. Mm-hmm. But we would need like genetic variables of the least athletic potential human, the most genetic potential human, born biologically in each sex, to figure out what steroids may be able to play, what transitioning may be able to play, and where you would compete in, again, a bell curve. But the truth is, I can't just complain because LeBron James got a better lottery card at a taller mom than I had.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think it's important to say, too, that, like, going back to fruit and ice cream, these are not hills that we're trying to die on. And
no, I think it's an interesting discussion because it's so relevant.
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't have an answer, and I'm not, like, you can be mad at me for anything I said here, but you're probably wrong because all I'm just these are observations and to a certain extent opinions, but
I can find I'm just good at arguing. I can fucking argue both sides pretty easily. But the science can't keep up. And then I think the moral of the story is like acceptance versus fair. I don't know where we go.
I don't either, but I think we've beaten this horse.
Ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor, share this thing with your friends. New podcast every Wednesday. It really helps if you share it on Twitter and Instagram. We'll repost and reshare as much as we can. 3sb.co, again, up to 50% off on all our apparel for the next week here, the next 5 days once you guys are listening to this probably. And then brand new drop coming in August. Again, everything's a very small batch. So once it's gone, it's gone. Once the sale's gone, it's gone. No new sale to our next anniversary, second year anniversary in 2022. Appreciate you guys so much. I'm Silent Mike, everywhere you want to find me.
I am at the Jim McD on all the social medias. I know that Apple Podcasts app is a piece of crap currently. It's very challenging to listen to things. They changed the way that they talk about. You don't subscribe anymore. You follow, and you got to find a place to do that. You got to hit the button up in the upper right hand corner, and then hit follow. And they just made it so much more complicated. And then numbers are really not reflective of the number of people who are actually listening to things, and it's a mess. But if you use Apple Podcasts, if you would subscribe and shoot us a short, hopefully 5-star review. These things do help. I can't tell you exactly how or how much, but they do help. If you listen on some other platform, do the same thing there. We would definitely appreciate it. This is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers, and I can't talk today because I need more coffee. And as I said, I'm at the Jim McD on all the social medias, and we're out of this one. Talk to you next week. Bye.